Hello there!
And welcome back to another video! We are on episode 7 of the 7 Days of Huevember Bleach Edition, and today we are doing our favourite colour, well not our favourite colour, it's my favourite colour, red. And it might be very obvious who I'm drawing right now, but I will say that this is number 3 in terms of the headache squad. We had Indigo at number 1, Blue at number 2, and Red at number 3 of our headache squad. And Red was a headache mainly because I had a very clear picture in my mind of what I wanted to draw, and no references that really did it justice, and a very kind of like in a level of inexperience towards what this character kind of looks like. So here we are in our semi-traditional pause at the beginning where I'm just trying to find a reference that might maybe potentially help me get this right. And yeah, overall this is very much outside of what I normally draw in terms of what this character looks like, but I mean, you have to. I mean, there's probably a lot of other characters I could have done for Red, but get your guesses in before the final reveal if you would like to play the game with me. But I just ended up having to go with this one because honestly, I don't know, it feels very Red to me. And yeah, also it was just because the references that I found that was similar in this character, they were all facing the other way for a very particular reason, which may or may not be in sight right now, an eye patch. But I did very much want him to be facing the other way just because I don't know, for the flip through basically, I wanted him to be looking into the sketchbook rather than out of the sketchbook, if that makes sense. It makes no sense whatsoever, but that's the reason why I did it, and that's why we're rocking the eye patch side rather than the other side, and our D Kenny is looking very angry, and I love it. But I wanted, this is really hard for me. I have this struggle when I was drawing Grimmjow and when I've drawn Bakugo before, where I want to draw like feral smiles. Like I want to draw them smile. I don't want to draw them angry, but I want them to look mean while they're smiling. And it's very hard for me to make them look mean, but also like toothy and aggressive when smiles are either like, oh, I'm cheering in joy, or the snarl looks more like, you know, I'm just very angry, not like I'm showing teeth because I'm angry, not because I'm smiling. See, this one looks like I'm angry with this shape, but I was like, no, it looks too angry. I want him to look happy because he's a very aggressive boy and he needs to be, you know, reveling in his aggression. And again, I found a bunch of references, but they weren't capturing it how I wanted to capture it, and it was just very much a struggle. But I think that this was a lot less of a struggle than our dear Indigo and our favorite Blue. Yeah, Blue is definitely the biggest headache. So here I got roughly the kind of feralness that I wanted, and I was very excited to see how far my red markers could take me. Honestly, it's not very much of a surprise to me that out of all of my markers in this set, the ones that struggle the most are the reds. But to be fair, because I use so much red, I had a bunch of alternates. So we have this red little brush pen, I had this other like Stedler type thing that was red, and I had a darker red and a lighter red, and it was okay. I was able to pull it off, even though my reds get the most use out of all of these sorts of sketchbook oriented markers that I have. I should take this moment now that I'm talking about the supplies to say that for the bulk of Huevember, I was working with just this set of water-based markers that I bought off of Wish a couple years ago, and I had that set for like 2 years and I wasn't really using them, and then I just started using them in my sketchbook. I actually even have one of those markers in my kitchen on top of my calendar to cross off the days. I wasn't using them, but then I just started using them in my sketchbook to like give more pops of color, and since then I've kind of been addicted. It's been like a year and a half since I started doing that, and I think it's like, it really helps. And these markers have like a thicker brushy tip. It's not really a brush, it's like a felt tip. And then they have the fine liner tip. So I don't know, I feel like it really helps add variety to the sketchbook when you have stuff like that. And it's not like as seamless as using ballpoint pen. And definitely these don't blend, these eat the paper. They they don't layer well, they look really streaky or whatever, but then when you take a step back and you just look at it as a whole, I mean, I feel like it's cool. And I do try to coordinate slightly which streaky direction streaky it goes. You can kind of see like the hair coming out from like the roots and then like kind of circling around. It's not perfect obviously, but like I do try to keep the streakiness in mind while I'm working with them, and I do find that yeah, it's a lot more punchy than just having, you know, graphite sketches and stuff like that. And obviously I do not want to be I want to say wasting, but it feels a little bit excessive to use alcohol markers at this degree, especially if they bleed to the other side. And I will say that in this sketchbook, despite the alcohol markers bleeding to the other side, I still use the other side because they bleed significantly less through this paper because it's better quality. But I still rather use the water-based markers for something like this, and it's, I don't know, it was fun. So here we're using the lighter red, and this red had died on me, but then I put some isopropyl alcohol on it, and it's come back to life. And I always check that. You saw me flip a little bit because I always check, because with the isopropyl alcohol, it doesn't act the same as its siblings. It acts more like an alcohol marker, and then I keep having this feeling of it's going to bleed through to the other side, but then I always check, and it hasn't. Knock on wood. But yeah, here it's like I'm slowing down because it's really, really, it's almost there. It's almost gone. But it dried up enough where I was able to add some like more like, you know, scratchy, almost dead marker like effects and whatnot. But yeah, we have our darling Kenny from Squad 11 looking feral as I wanted. And yes, thank you for joining me for this episode. And we have one episode remaining. I hope you'll come back for it. Have a lovely day, and I'll see you soon.